The 119th Congress kicked off Friday with a contentious speaker vote in the House of Representatives. Republican Mike Johnson of Louisiana will keep the gavel. He was able to secure 218 votes in the first round after a little bit of back and forth within his own party. Now, initially, there were three GOP holdouts: Tom Massey of Kentucky, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, and Keith Self of Texas. Johnson and his colleagues were able to flip Norman and Self before the vote formally concluded. Massey, who's pushed back against President-elect Donald Trump, and Johnson remained the one vote against the speaker among the Republicans. Johnson now faces the narrowest House majority in nearly 100 years. Despite his party's slim majority, Johnson vowed to follow through with President-elect Donald Trump's America First agenda.
This is a powerful new coalition of our country. It's a coalition that insists that we purge the policies of America last and we bury them in the graveyard of history's mistakes, because it was a big mistake. To that end, this Congress will renounce the status quo and we will listen to the voices of the people. We will act quickly and we will start by defending our nation's borders. That's the number one priority.
For more, let's bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Nikole, I saw you speaking to every member of Congress who crossed your path today. Walk us through what happens now that Mike Johnson has been reelected as Speaker. And this was something that you and I discussed when he was making a compromise with the Democrats to keep the government open. How much did he lose some of his political capital among Republicans during that?
Well, look, the Speaker, Mike Johnson, is eager to get to work starting right now. You know, he's swearing in members, taking a ceremonial photo with them. Of course, tomorrow he'll be meeting with members to discuss the path forward once President-elect Trump takes office on January 20th. So they'll be strategizing about how to move his agenda forward expeditiously. So the work begins. But look, you know, in his speech today, as well as in Leader Hakeem Jeffries' speech introducing the Speaker, both of them appear to extend an olive branch towards the other, acknowledging that there may be times where they need to work together. Of course, we know that that was part of why the Speaker faced some opposition, because some members of his far-right flank believe that he has kind of bent too much to Democrats, worked too much with them, given too much, conceded too much. And so especially as Republicans take the majority both here in the House and the Senate, they don't want to see that same scenario repeated. That being said, Leader Jeffries made clear, as did Chair Pete Aguilar, that the Speaker and Republicans are going to need Democrats at some point to get things over the finish line. So they can't simply abandon working in a bipartisan fashion. Even some House Republicans I spoke to earlier today acknowledged as much. But because, as you mentioned, the Speaker has such a narrow majority, it's just going to be a very fine line that he has to walk to not only keep his conference in line, but when those opportunities present themselves, to also try to work across the aisle when and if he can.
We saw that razor-thin margin playing out today. So, Nikole, what, if anything, did Johnson promise or agree to for Representatives Self and Norman in order to change their votes?
Well, the Speaker made clear that he wasn't going to cut any side deals, which is something that we saw former Speaker Kevin McCarthy have to do as he tried to win the gavel through some 15 rounds of voting. Speaker Mike Johnson made clear that that wasn't the approach that he was going to take. However, he did ultimately need President-elect Trump to kind of step in and help convince some of these holdouts to support the Speaker. Take a listen to Congressman Ralph Norman, who I spoke to earlier today, about what changed his mind.
We had a talk with President Trump. We got in there. You know, I never know how this stuff's going to come out. I didn't know how people are going to vote. The fact that we got together, Mike gave us his assurances he's going to fight for the things we think are important for the country. And was it worth taking another hour? Yes. And so I'm excited with the way it came out. Mike is too.
So Norman told me at the top of that conversation that he did speak with President-elect Donald Trump, as did Congressman Keith Self, who said that he spoke with Trump as well. The Speaker a short time ago also acknowledged that the President-elect got involved and really, talked about the importance of staying unified, which is something that the Speaker had been pushing for ahead of this vote, expressing confidence that he thought ultimately the conference would unite behind him. But really, quite frankly, the only way he can get President-elect Trump's agenda moving forward is if they could continue with the business of this chamber, and had this been a protracted fight, that just would not have happened. So it really wasn't in the broader interest of both of the House Republican Conference, but also the president-elect to stall this out much longer, which is why I think you saw this vote resolved in relatively short order on that first ballot.
Very quickly, in such contrast to some of the dysfunction we had previously seen for speaker elections. And Nikole, as you're talking about the agenda, the business of Congress, what is at the very top of their list when it comes to what Republicans want to do now that they have control of both chambers as well as the presidency?
Yeah, well, Speaker Mike Johnson ticked through that to-do list, which pretty much mirrors the president-elect's agenda in the sense that he said that they plan to tackle the border and securing the border first. And he even referenced Leader Hakeem Jeffries saying, you know, I'm taking you at your word when you say you're going to work with us, and that this will be an issue that you help us out on, because Leader Jeffries also talked about the importance of fixing the broken immigration system. Clearly, Democrats and Republicans have different ideas about how to do that, but the Speaker made clear that they are going to move forward on the president-elect's priorities with respect to mass deportation, with respect to trying to finish the wall. He also talked a lot about the importance of not having these one-sided trade deals, which we know the president-elect has made some of these tariff policies his priority when he takes office. Speaker Mike Johnson also talked about the importance of energy independence. He talked about, for instance, in the military, too, getting back to lethal and strong military, kind of criticizing the Pentagon, which we heard quite a bit about on the campaign trail, that the Pentagon has taken too many policies with respect to social justice. And so, as you know, many Republicans have criticized the Pentagon as being too woke in their views. The Speaker didn't use that terminology, but did allude to that. So basically, fulfilling President-elect's America First agenda is top of mind for House Republicans as soon as the President-elect takes office on January 20th.
All right, Nikole Killion, thank you. One of the first tasks for the new Congress will be confirming President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet nominations. Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan spoke with newly elected Senate Majority Leader John Thune about some of Trump's more controversial picks and if he believes that the confirmation process will be successful.
You've said you have to see if Democrats play ball or not, but you don't need Democrats to get these through. So does that mean you already know some of your Republican senators won't vote to confirm Kash Patel at the FBI or Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon?
We don't have, at this point, I don't think, clarity on that. I think these are nominees who are new enough. They've been going around and conducting their meetings, which I think, frankly, have gone very well. But they still have to make their case in front of the committee. And, you know, we don't know all the information about some of these nominees. I think we know a lot about them. But they deserve a fair process, and that's what we've committed to and promised, and I expect to deliver on. And ultimately, whether or not they get through that process is going to be up to each individual senator and how they decide to vote. We have a 3-vote margin in the Senate, as you point out, but I do think that in most cases, at least, most of our Republican senators are inclined to give the president the people that he wants in these positions. Given, you know, the process that they go through and whether or not they can manage the committee process and ensure that they get to the floor for vote.
And you can watch more of the interview on Face the Nation this Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on CBS News 24/7.